Hello and welcome to another video on Gran Turismo Sport, and welcome to the channel if you've not been here before. So we are at Monza today in the Group 3 cars, the Daily Race C on Gran Turismo, and it's a 10-lap race on medium and hard racing tyres. So it's going to be a one-stop race, no fuel to worry about, and we are in the Corvette. So first things first, one tip I will give you for anyone doing this race this week is on lap 1 for turn 1, just brake a little bit earlier than you think you need to and don't go in too aggressively. So you can see here we're racing with a number of top drivers and we've got through turn 1 as clean as possible. So you can see up ahead we've got Mehdi there. I think he was maybe second in the world on the time trial going into this race. I'm not too sure why he's in the Renault there, because that's not going to be particularly fast on the straight. So if he's not in slipstream, he's going to get overtaken quite easily. So we're in third place then in the Corvette, probably the number one choice of car for this race, purely because of its top end and its ability to go very quick in the slipstream. If we have a look in the mirrors then, we've got Bang Boom behind us, another quick driver, followed by Quinton in P5. Quinton obviously finishing the last FIA Nations Exhibition Series in first place as well, so very quick driver. Not too sure how we've qualified ahead of him. He must have maybe spent 5 minutes on his qualifying lap or something, but yeah, somehow we're ahead of him. So you can see here as we go into Parabolica then, getting very close up to the Renault in front and just making sure we're not going to hit it there. And coming around Parabolica, you can see the Corvette behind. There's just got a little bit of space, and this is what you'll see about the Renault being slow in a straight line here. So even though it is in the slipstream, we're going to get a lot of overspeed and move to the outside here. So at this stage of the race, we don't actually really want to go for the move. We just want to make sure we're not hitting him. So we've moved to the outside there, but we've broke at our normal braking point, and we're not going to go in too aggressively right now. We just want to sit in P3 and keep up with the leader and just see what develops through the start of the race. As you see the Corvette just pulling away a little bit here, but again, we're not going to go for a move. We want to play it nice and safe, and yeah, the key is just to not have any incidents this early on in the race, because a penalty now would set you back behind all these cars behind us. So we want the race to spread out a little bit first. We hopefully want P1 to put in some good laps, and we'll follow along nicely behind in the slipstream. So as you see here, we crossed the penalty serving line, and in the mirrors behind, Bang Boom has actually had a penalty to serve. So I believe he might have cut one of the chicanes slightly, so got himself a half-second penalty. But fortunately for us, that's meant that Quinton behind is now out of the slipstream range. So if the two drivers up ahead can put in some decent laps and we can stay with them, then there may be a chance of keeping that gap, starting to grow it out a little bit further and breaking away. The one thing we do have against us is that Quinton is probably one of the fastest drivers on the game at the moment. So if there's anyone that's going to be able to gain 2.5 tenths to move into slipstream range, it will be Quinton. So you can see here as we set a 47.6 for our first flying lap, which is not a bad pace, not too bad at all. So as you see up ahead then, the Corvette going a little bit defensive, but P2 clearly not wanting to challenge for the lead just yet. And unfortunately that has slowed us down a little bit through that section. So you can see behind, if you look to the left at the split times, Quinton has gained a little bit on us through there. So this Renault it's going to become a little bit of a problem if we're behind it for too long in this race. And all the time it's in the slipstream to P1, it's okay. But as soon as the Renault ends up being in clear air, it's going to start holding us up a little bit. So if we do get an opportunity to get past the Renault, it will definitely help us in this race, because I don't think it's going to be particularly strong towards the later stages. So you can see here, as we come around the second Lesbo, we've lost a little bit of time, and Quinton is already within that slipstream range now. So yeah, we haven't been able to break away from him at all, and I believe P5 is also very close behind him. Skipping forwards then on to the start of lap 4, and just moving out the slipstream, going down into turn 1, but not going for the move. And you can see here, just coming out of the first chicane, we have got a much better exit than Mehdi up ahead, and we're going to get a bit of a run on him here. So you can see the closing distance is coming down very, very quickly. The Corvette obviously having a lot of overspeed. We're going to move to the inside here, and you can see Mehdi on the brakes quite early, so he's going to let us go. We make the chicane, don't lose too much, but on the exit we just get a little bit of wheel spin which drops us back. So unfortunately we've now ended up nearly 1.2 seconds behind the leader, and again we just go a little bit wide into the first Lesmo, and that's going to cost us quite a lot. So we're now out of the slipstream range of the car in front, with Mehdi very, very close behind in the Renault. So ideally we wanted to get that move done without losing too much time to P1, and we're going to have to really push on hard now if we want to bridge that gap and get back into that slipstream. The key thing with this race is being very tactical with the slipstream, so making sure you don't battle too much at certain points in the race if you don't need to, and just making sure that you always keep the leaders in sight. As soon as you start fighting, and this happens a lot in the midfield, you end up with the cars in front breaking away, and then it's just near on impossible to get back up to the back of them. So as we head on to the start finish straight then, crossing the line to complete lap 4, and you can see the Renault is starting to get very close to us, but Quinton in the Mercedes just behind him has a bit of a slingshot here, and then he goes very, very late on the brakes and up the inside. So we decide not to fight it at this point. We don't want to lose any more time to the lead car, so we just let him go through, and you can see over on the Delta we're still 1.3 now behind, so we haven't lost any net time to the leader, and now we've got Quinton, who's a very, very fast driver, up ahead of us. So hopefully he will be able to be quick enough to bridge that gap, and we'll follow along nicely right up to the back of the Corvette in the lead. So as we jump ahead then onto the end of lap 5, you can see we're gaining on Quinton quite quickly here, but we're just going to nudge him forward to help him move up to the car in front as he puts his hazard lights on, just to say thanks there. So a little tactic you can do in order to work together with another driver to bridge a gap. Sometimes the penalty system, depending on what update it's had, will give you a penalty for that, but at the moment it seems to be absolutely fine to be able to bump draft. So a very useful little tactic if you do need to work with another driver. Heading around Parabolica then to complete lap 6, and you can see most of the top 10, if they're on the medium tyres, are going to pick this lap. So we dive into the pits, take those hard tyres, and we've rejoined the race right behind Quinton, crossing the white line of course, as there's no penalty for doing that in this game. Unfortunately, as we've gone into turn 1, we've just nudged Quinton from behind, and yeah, we get a 1 second penalty unfortunately. So it was my fault of course, but the sort of the pinball-like physics that you sometimes get with collisions, yeah, sends him further forward than he would have realistically. So as we serve our penalty then, that drops us down to 6th place unfortunately, also dropping behind Bonus Kart there, who I believe is yet to make a pit stop. So unfortunately that's dropped us a little bit off the back, I should say, off of the top 5 here. As you see, Bonus Kart does indeed hit. So we are now up to 5th place, but there's a bit of a gap to make up. So all of the 4 up ahead obviously have the slipstream, as you can see there. Old Bang Boom making the move on Mehdi going down into turn 1. Mehdi of course looking like he was a bit of a sitting duck there in that Renault. And coming out of the first chicane then, we are 8 tenths behind, but we're approaching the end of the race now, so the cars up ahead are going to start battling. Obviously at the start of the race, drivers weren't being too aggressive with each other, but you can see here as we're going through the second chicane, it's all getting very, very fighty up ahead, and you can see going into first les mode, Quinton making a move for the lead and getting that move done. So you can see here we are just a second behind now, within a second, but over those two straights we did lose a little bit of time. So going down into the start of lap 9 and into the chicane, you can see up ahead Quinton just picking up a 1 second penalty for a bit of contact there, as Old Bang Boom takes the lead of the race. So we are still just tantalisingly outside of that slipstream range at just 1 second back. But again, there's going to be opportunities going into the final laps, and the cars up ahead do start battling. And we can see here as we go into the second chicane, there is a bit of contact. You can see the Portuguese driver there going a bit sideways, and 3 penalties have been dished out. So I'm not too sure really what the penalties are for. It may be a little bit of corner cutting, it may be a little bit of contact there, but basically 3 out of the 4 drivers up ahead have a penalty served. So as we hit that serving line, we are just about going to get past all 3 of them and move up into second place in this race with just over a lap to go. So yeah, obviously we were unfortunate with the penalty we received, and then all 3 of those drivers were also unfortunate really with the penalties they received. So another argument for Gran Turismo to maybe just reduce that collision penalty sensitivity down a little bit. You know, all those drivers were receiving penalties where really the contacts that they did have hasn't really affected anyone else's race. So yeah, I don't think penalties should be given out, and to be honest, if it was a real race you wouldn't have seen any penalties for the incidents that have currently just happened. So as we head down onto the final lap, then you can see we don't have a slipstream. Quinton getting a big overspeed on us, and yeah, not really much we can do about that. We know Quinton's very, very good on the brakes, and we don't want to ruin our race. You know, we want to try and maintain this podium position now if we can. We're going to head round, follow as close as we can to Quinton. We do have over a second behind us, so this podium position should be secured for us as long as we don't have any dramas into the final half of this lap. And you can see here Old Bang Boom just cuts a corner there very slightly and receives a ½ second penalty. So that's going to bring both myself and Quinton into play for the lead of the race at the end of this lap. So it's been an absolutely thrilling race so far, definitely for me as a driver anyway. As we head around the second lesmo, then we can see up ahead Old Bang Boom is serving his penalty, but he's not losing enough time that we're going to be able to overtake him here. So we're just going to have to hope that maybe he makes a mistake through a Ascari or around the final corner of the race. And as we come through the Ascari chicane, then we can see Quinton gets a bit out of shape and a little bit sideways, and that's going to give us a bit of a run on him going down into the final corner of the race. So we're going to move to the inside just to let him know we're there, but we know how good he is on the brakes, so we're not going to go for the move. We're going to pull out of it, but make sure we keep it as close to the inside as possible. Quinton gets on the power very, very early, just ends up on the rumble strip on the outside there, and that enables us to go up the inside, and then it's just a pure drag race to the line, and we get P2. So very, very close finish there. We'll have a look at the photo finish, and you can see I think we were just a metre ahead there. So looking at the chat then at the end of the race, and you can see a bit of an argument going on between Quinton and Old Bang Boom. So before we end the video, we'll have a little look at that. You can see Quinton in P1 has been overtaken by Old Bang Boom, who's got the slipstream, but under braking he moves across in front of Quinton. Quinton goes into the back and picks up a 1 second penalty. So yeah, that's a bit of a no-no for me. You shouldn't be moving across in the braking zone, and yeah, very, very unfair really for Quinton to get a penalty for that. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like and consider subscribing, and I'll see you again for the next one.